everyone, it's Nikki Kelly here. I'm the founder of Wisdom, and this video today is really going to concentrate on how we create our Evergreen courses. We have many users on our platform who sell courses every day, and when it comes to courses, and programs and memberships, our time can be limited. And with Evergreen courses, when we promote them, we put them up there and so forth, we can't be there 24/7. And so I want to share with you today in this particular video how to really engage, get that engagement from your students and also that trust build without having to be online all the time because, hey, we do have lives to live, right? So the truth is self-paced courses don't have to feel disconnected. So like I mentioned today, I'm actually going to go through and show you how to create a course that it's not just easy to sell, but it does keep learners actively involved. It actually helps them learn the content you're trying to share and hopefully come back for more. So let's dive in. So one thing I wanted to share before we go through the 4 steps is learning isn't just about information, right? It's about engagement and connection. And people really do remember best when they're actually involved in the content itself, but also a part of the bigger picture. So as the founder of Wisdom, I have happened to have worked with countless course creators. And through that time, we've tested a number of functionalities. And obviously through my studies in, leaders of learning and so forth, it really came down to what truly keeps learners engaged and retaining that information more than anything. So research does back this. Students who feel connected with their instructor and their learning experience in the environment that they're in are far more likely to complete a course and see real results. So let's get talking about how we can create more of an engaged environment for those self-paced learners in there that are joining your Evergreen courses. Okay, so the first action step, really simple here. It just comes down to structure, right? Keeping it simple. So when a course is clear and it's easy to follow, students obviously stay motivated and they can retain more information. Little steps. We all say this every day, right? But what it actually means is your course has clarity. So what we do is we break down lessons into clear, focused modules. Really simple. And really, when you're creating that lesson, be upfront with the learning objective. What are they expected to learn in that lesson? When they have an idea of what they're supposed to walk away with, they will understand the direction that the lesson is taking you on. Now, the other option is, or not the other option, but the other strategy is use particular questions in those lessons to really engage those learners. And below in our description, I do have a guide that you can download. And that guide specifically helps you with providing some templates on those questions that you can ask, as well as a few other things that I'll point out in this video. So the 5 essential question types, I guess that you can call them, that improve retention from your learners on the content you're trying to share is, one is called application. So where can you use this information that I'm sharing with you? Another one is scenario. How would you handle this information that I've given you? Reflection is what surprised you in this lesson. And that particularly means, what piece of information did you find interesting that you didn't actually realize that you've learnt in this lesson? And connection is, how does this relate to what you already know? Where this question of connection comes in. What do you already know about this particular subject? And how has this lesson enlightened that or expanded on that knowledge base that you already have? The next one, which is the 5th one, is called decision. So what's the one thing you'll change after this lesson? So from learning this information, is there anything that you're going to change or alter based on what you already knew? So there are 5 specific questions that you could ask throughout your course, in each lesson, whatever it is that you want to do, but they're great ways to get that engagement and get those learners retaining the information you're sharing. So the next course of action that you can have to engage with your students in your Evergreen courses is automated support. Now, it doesn't mean that everything is literally automated from day dot when they enroll, but these are things that you could integrate into the course, some little extra areas that you can integrate to let students know that this is available during these times, etc., etc. So what I mean by this is, without needing to check in daily, you can actually keep your learners engaged. And this would start with basically just simple things like setting up an FAQs page inside your course. So we know, you could have it inside the platform if you wanted to, but what we would suggest, if you've got a course and you've got your modules and you've got your lessons, have an FAQ at the end. And yes, when you have students and through the, growth and evolution of your course, you would probably update information based on the feedback you've had from previous learners. But what the best thing to do is mark those questions that have been asked from previous learners and put them in the FAQs, because your learners consistently will probably ask similar questions. And if they're in the FAQs, it might be obvious to you, but to them, if they can go to an FAQ and see some information in there that relates to that course, it can be helpful for them. It's just one little extra resource that you can add in there. Another portion is automating the check-ins and encouragement emails. And what I mean by that is we have automated emails quite often, and someone joins a course and automatically an email will go out to them, welcoming them to the course. So in this particular case, you'd be sending an email, a welcome email, but you might send up a follow-up email, maybe in a couple of days or weeks, whatever it is, right? And it's like, how are you progressing? How are you going? Don't forget, we have a social chat group that you can chat with other learners if your platform allows that. Inside Wisdom, we do. Whenever you create a course, it automatically creates a social group for students to engage for that peer-to-peer learning style. But what you can really do with those emails is really prompt that action, prompt that activity if you can. And it's an opportunity as well to send like an encouragement email as well. So it could be just a few weeks later and say, hey, how have you gone with the course? Where are you at? Let us know. Are you at the start still? Have you come across a blocker? Have you halfway through? Have you finished? How are the results? Those kind of emails are really good. Just sort of check back in, and they can be set as automated emails. So a few days after, weeks, whatever it is, right? The next one, which I just touched on a little bit before, was having a community forum. So that's sort of a peer support group in a sense. So like I mentioned in our system, we have a social group that is connected to the course. So whenever someone joins a course, enrolls in a course, they are automatically put into a social group. And that particular group is specific to the learners of that course. It's a really good way for people to learn, which is a peer-to-peer way of learning, is when you've got that space for your learners to go to, rather than just leaving a comment that could be at the bottom of the lesson and just waiting for some sort of reply, they could get more of an instant reply and engagement with other students of that course. So all in all, these little prompts will create a real supportive learning experience. It really does help reduce the time that you have to spend answering questions. And when you're in lessons actually as well, when you're creating them, prompt your students after this lesson, let us know how you thought. Instead of just leaving it as it is, like directing them, giving them a call to action beside the action that you're getting them to achieve, which is like to really retain the information, the activity. Get them to also leave a comment or jump into the social group and have a chat, let people know where you're at. It's a really good way to get that engagement with students. Even if you can't be there, they can all be there for each other. The next activity next action you can take in setting this up and making sure your learners really do engage is encouraging peer-to-peer learning. This is a massive game changer when it comes to online learning. Studies show that peer learning actually boosts retention by 16 times. So actually having a social group where peers, which are the other students in that course itself, can actually, interact, ask questions, promote what they've learned out of the course, etc. So one way to actually do this is when in those forums, groups that you create, ask questions weekly in there. Just go in there once a week if you can and ask or prompt a question. It could be around what are the challenges you have? What are the wins that you've had? And really promote other students if you can to just help each other out and put in information like, the fact that I just like that little statistic that I gave you where peer learning does boost retention by 16 times. Put that in there and let people know that by you all helping each other will help you retain this information, get the most out of this course. Now, these are the little things that you can prompt in there. Then there's the obvious one, right? Having Q&A sessions. It doesn't mean you have to do them weekly. You could do them monthly if you wanted to. But if you just show yourself in there at least every now and then, it will give the students the impression and understanding that you are still around and this is a live environment. It's not just static. It's not just they go in there, they buy the thing and that's it. No one else is around. They're not alone. That's one of the things that you really want to promote here. So if you can jump in, I really do recommend doing a Q&A session at least every fortnight. If you can do them weekly, that's a huge bonus. And whilst you're doing that too, it's just another way you can promote to other products or coming into that whole community environment where there's a whole lot more stuff that's going on in there. So whilst this does reduce your workload, it does increase learner satisfaction. So because they're getting that support from other community, from around the community, not just you, they really feel that they're just not alone. So do give this a try. Okay, so the last action that you can take is challenging learners. Just really helping them reevaluate themselves what they've gained out of doing this course. And that could be, it could be asking those questions after each lesson if you wanted to. But there's a couple of styles of questions, again, that you could ask. And again, they're inside the booklet that you can download below. So challenging your students will really help them keep that engagement as well. It's just another form of engagement. And people do learn best when they're actually actively thinking about what they've learned. So instead of just feeding them information, you're getting them to interact with it. So here are some ideas that you can boost that engagement. The first one you could provide, and there's 5 of them again, is a scenario type of challenge. So it's basically, what would you do? And this lets learners apply the knowledge in real situations. The second one is all about exercises, right? What is missing? So give them something to complete, like an exercise to complete so they can analyze. And this is sort of an example of, let's say a business campaign has run for a little while, but they didn't get the ROI on this campaign. What could have been missing in this based on what you've learnt? So that's a kind of missing, like an exercise on what's missing. A time challenge, that's another option there too. And that's just basically giving a small task to be completed within a deadline. Then there's a teach back exercise. And this is very popular. It's basically having them to explain the concept in their own words. Just regurgitate what they've learnt. And sometimes you could use the concept of teach this back to me as if I'm a little 10-year-old. Sometimes 10-year-olds learn more than us, like when it comes to tech and so forth, but that's just an example anyway. And then the last one is experimentation. And this is sort of encouraging trial and error. And this is very common, right? We usually sit there and say, okay, now that you've learned this, now go off and do the same thing and see what you come up with as a result. So overall, this keeps learners engaged. It helps them problem solve. And it actually helps them apply what they've actually learned. So we know this is how true mastery happens. So these kind of challenges are great to apply in your courses, especially the evergreen ones. So this section here is on the tech. It's just a small portion of this video where I just wanted to remind you that, it's not just the content that you're sharing, but it's the environment that your learner is coming into to learn that information. And yes, this is promoting something that, Wisdom has that some other platforms don't have. And it's just how easy it is our platform can be to use for your members with respect to going into their course, jumping into it straight away, learning what they need to learn, and seeing that there's a social wall right there that they can click on, directing them straight to the area where other students of that course are chatting and getting that engagement, that involvement, whilst they're in the one platform. So just those are sort of the things that you can think of, their actual experience in diving into your course. So if you want to check out Wisdom, we do have a free plan. So you can just jump straight onto that if you want to and check it out. Ask any questions that you have, leave them in the comments, email us, whatever. We have a huge support system. So you're welcome to just ask any questions that you have about our system and how it could support you in delivering your evergreen courses. Creating an engaging evergreen course is 100% possible, right? It doesn't have to be you having to be online 24/7 for your students. By no means, it doesn't have to be that at all. And by focusing on clarity, focusing on support, focusing on community and the challenge side of things, you can really create a course that learners will love and they'll come back to you for more. So click below and explore Wisdom if you like on any of our free plans. And if you found this video helpful, do give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you around.